Hey everybody, welcome back to John's Briefs. We're here with Mark Victor, Attorneys for Freedom, and got an interesting one here today. Got a lot of people on the video of the mom of three who shoots an intruder who's kicked in her door, but he's standing outside the door when she shoots him. And a lot of people said to me, well, John, I was told you can't shoot him until he is inside the home. And so I asked Mark about it. We haven't talked about this one at all yet. I want to get it on camera, so let's talk. Today's video is brought to us by the generosity of Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners. You win the fight, and they will help you win the fight after the fight for the rest of your life. There's a link in the description for a coupon code for a discount for all active self-protection watchers. Mark, as always, I really appreciate your expertise, man.
It's great to be here.
And of course, you know, the opposite side of this is that there's this bad myth in the self-defense world that says, well, if you shoot somebody in the front porch, drag them in the house. Now, of course, we'd never do that because that's tampering with the crime scene, right, with the deadly force incident.
This is complete ridiculousness.
Right.
I don't know where this sort of an old wives' tale happens, where the flip side of this is people think that just because somebody's in the house, you get to shoot them.
Yeah, no.
And just because they're outside, you don't get to shoot them. It's true, you get a little bit more leeway in the house.
Okay.
We'll admit, right? This is where really, this doesn't apply as much in Arizona, but this is where sort of the castle doctrine comes from. Right? Even in these states where you got to retreat, they even recognize in the house it's different. And so you get a little bit more play in your house. And of course in Arizona, we've got 13411 that other states don't have, which is a completely different reason that you get to shoot and kill a person, which has nothing necessarily to do with what we normally talk about death or serious physical injury. So under 13411, which is our crime prevention statute in Arizona, and again, this is a weird statute and probably doesn't apply in most states, but in Arizona, if it's immediately necessary to shoot somebody, to stop them from committing certain things like a burglary in somebody's home like this, if it's immediately necessary,
Forcible entry of an occupied structure.
You're probably okay under 13411. But putting that aside, it really doesn't matter whether they're in or out. And of course, you said it, but it's worth saying again, don't move the body. If you drag that body in the house, this is the dumbest thing you can do, because not only is it tampering with evidence, which is a separate crime, but it's going to put red flags up all over the place, right? They're going to argue this is consciousness of guilt. You're trying to...
Mens rea.
All kinds of problems are going to flow from this. And so, no, you can shoot somebody outside the house if it's immediately necessary to protect your life or against a serious physical injury. No problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem. And you don't get to shoot them just because they're in the house either, right? They could be in the house committing a theft of something, and if you shoot somebody to protect property inside the house, you're going to be prosecuted. So neither of those things, people like bright line absolute rules.
Right.
And if you're one of these people that needs, 3 or 4 bright line rules, you shouldn't be carrying a firearm. This is not an area for bright line rules like that. We have some rules, but you really got to apply common sense. It's a big deal. It's a big deal when you're going to carry or use a firearm, and you're held to a very high standard. And for people who can't think a little bit outside the box, maybe these aren't the best people to be carrying firearms.
Right. Well, and you've said this before on the channel, that the totality of circumstances matter and the facts are what we're arguing about here. We're not arguing about the law. We know what the law says. It's the facts and how do the facts fit the law that we talk about. And in this case, it's early morning. They have gone around the house. They've been knocking on the garage. They've been looking in the windows in the back.
Shooting. I like this shooting.
Easy day,
no
right?
problem.
And he kicks the door down, and you can even see the boot prints in the door when he kicks through the door. Violent entry of an occupied home after she's warned him verbally through the door. Easy day.
Little war story on this one. I had almost this exact case.
Really?
Yeah, one day I get a call from a guy. He's very upset. He just shot a man who came into his house. This fellow worked the night shift and was home sleeping. Early morning, someone was again pounding on the door, just like this case. He heard that, grabbed his gun, went into his kitchen. This person kicked in the door. This guy comes in the house. My guy shoots him. But the little wrinkle in this case was the bad guy had actually seen the gun and started turning to retreat. And so the shot was not in the front, it was on the side. But in this case, which of course to me makes it more of a gray type of a shooting, right?
Yeah, depending on human performance and how long it took and this and that.
Arguably, the guy's in retreat, and we're into what we've talked about in some other videos now, more of a vengeance type of a shooting or a street justice type of thing. But in my case, what happened was the police recognized it was in a gray area, but they also recognized who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. And so it got pushed through without any problem.
Good.
And so that's
As it should have.
As it should have. I agree, because it's a very, again, the bright line rule. If it's not an imminent threat, you don't get to shoot. And this really wasn't if the guy was turning to leave. But on the other hand, there's a certain standard that's too high to hold people to, right? And so to me, it's a little bit too high. And the question again is always the same thing. Reasonableness.
Right.
Is it unreasonable for the guy in my situation or for the woman in this case to have shot that guy? Absolutely not. I don't think any jury would find that unreasonable under these circumstances. So there are times when you get to pull the trigger and shoot another human being. And I think in both the case that I had and in my case, my guy did not get charged.
Good.
And in this case, I think it was the right answer as well. So this is a great example that doesn't hit the press, right? Because the press doesn't like to say, look, another female homeowner, maybe home alone with the kids, protected herself against who knows what from a bunch of bad guys at the front door because she had a gun and knew how to use the thing.
And that was a big one, from the perspective that thank God she had that gun, because who knows what would have happened. Thank God she knew how to use it effectively. And that the prosecuting attorney in her district went, listen, you're the good person. That guy needed to get shot. We don't have any problems.
And this, again, is part of the reason why, these county attorneys ought to be elected, because they should be responsible to the people in the community. So, yeah I think overall that both of these are examples of guns save lives. They do. Guns can be used to do bad things. They can be used to do good things. And I will give Trump a little bit of credit on this last one. He said exactly the right thing. And the time at which we're recording this, where we've had these two horrible shootings in El Paso and in Dayton, and President Trump came out and said, and I might be paraphrasing here, it's not the gun that pulls the trigger, it's mental illness and white supremacy or whatever. It's the person, right? The problem is with the person, not with the firearm. I mean, this seems obvious to anybody who thinks about it.
Well, and so we see, again, from a legal perspective, it does not matter where that person is that you shoot. It matters why. It really matters why. And do I have objective, reasonable evidence that they represent a deadly threat or a threat of great bodily harm to me and mine? If they do, whether he's on the porch, in the curtilage, in my home, I pretty much am in the same place.
One thing I think that needs to be mentioned about this video that I liked was the escalation of force, right? Because as I understand it, and I couldn't tell from the video, but as I understand it, because I think you interviewed her or something.
I saw her interview. Actually, was on the media. The media in her town actually did a pretty good job for her.
Excellent. But as I understand it, she sort of gave a notice. Hey, I've got a gun. Leave me alone. I like that as an escalation, right? Because we prefer to have other options, right? Hey, maybe we said, leave me alone, I got a gun. Maybe we pulled the gun, leave me alone, I don't want to have to shoot you. And then finally, as a last resort, it looks a lot better than the first option is just pull the trigger, boom.
Yeah, and the fact that she had the time and ability, because she had the locked door at that point.
Absolutely.
Go away, get off my property, I have a gun, I'll defend myself, go away.
What more can you ask for?
What more can you ask for? And I think that even more so justifies and says, listen, I gave this guy every opportunity not to get shot. He chose his actions. And so at that point, yeah, he's standing outside, but I mean, he got what he bought. He got what he paid for, which was kicking down a woman's door who wasn't going to have it.
Certainly looks that way to me. The lesson here is don't go kicking in people's doors to commit burglaries, and you won't have these problems.
Awesome. So folks, as always, I want you to check the laws in your state, because things do vary a little bit from state to state, how much castle doctrine you get, that and the other thing. But as always, Mark, I appreciate the insight.
Great to be here.